If you're watching this video right now, I want you to pause for 1 second and ask yourself something honest. How many English words do you already know? 1,000? 3,000? Here's the truth most teachers never tell you. You don't need more words to speak fluently. You need your mouth, your ears, and your brain to finally work together. That's it. That's the whole secret. Most English learners never realize this. Fluency isn't about memorizing more vocabulary. It's about training your mouth to move the way native speakers move theirs. Training your ears to catch the rhythm, the melody, the little musical rise and fall of real spoken English. You can know every grammar rule in the book and still freeze when someone asks you, "So, what do you do?" Why? Because knowing and speaking are two completely different skills. And today, we're going to close that gap. Together, this lesson can change the way you speak English. Starting today, with one simple but powerful technique called shadowing. If that word is new to you, don't worry. By the end of this video, you'll not only understand it, you'll have already practiced it with me, live, in real time. I know what it feels like to think in your language first and then struggle to translate it into English while the other person waits. I know that frustration. But I also know it doesn't have to stay this way. Your voice, your confidence, your fluency, they're closer than you think. You just need the right method, repeated the right way. So take a breath, sit up a little straighter. Today, you're going to discover a practice that professional interpreters, actors, and polyglots have used for decades, and it's finally your turn to use it too. Let's begin with the first step to speaking English faster, starting right now. Let me ask you something. When a baby learns to speak, what's the very first thing that happens? Nobody hands them a grammar book. Nobody teaches them the difference between past tense and present perfect. No one explains sentence structure. Instead, for months, sometimes over a year, that baby just listens. They listen to their mother's voice, their father's laughter, the rhythm of a lullaby, the rise and fall of everyday conversation. And only after all that listening does a single word finally come out of their mouth. This is not a coincidence. This is how the human brain is actually wired to learn language. And if you skip this step, today's the day we go back and fix it. Here's the biggest mistake isn't your grammar. It's that you tried to speak before you truly listened. Most English learners start with textbooks, vocabulary lists, and grammar rules, and they try to speak almost immediately. But speaking without deep listening is like trying to sing a song you've never actually heard. You might know the words on the page, but you don't know the melody. You don't know where the notes go up, where they go down, where they pause, where they connect. And that's exactly why so many learners sound hesitant, robotic, or unsure, not because they don't know English, but because they never trained their ears first. Think about your own native language for a moment. Did you ever study its grammar before you could speak it fluently? Probably not. You absorbed it. You heard it thousands and thousands of times before you ever produced a sentence yourself. Your ears did the heavy lifting long before your mouth ever caught up. English works exactly the same way. Your ears are not just for understanding, they are the foundation your speaking is built on. If that foundation is weak, everything you build on top of it will feel shaky too. So what does listening first actually mean in practice? It means before you try to repeat a sentence, before you try to shadow it, before you try to use it in conversation, you listen to it closely, multiple times, paying attention not just to the words, but to the music behind the words. Notice how a native speaker's voice rises on a question. Notice how certain words get stressed, while others almost disappear. Notice the small connections between words, how want to quietly becomes wanna, how going to softens into gonna in casual speech. These aren't mistakes you're hearing. These are the natural rhythms of real spoken English. And no textbook can fully teach you this. Only your ears can. This is also why listening first builds something even more valuable than vocabulary. It builds confidence. When you've truly listened to a phrase enough times, when it's echoing naturally in your mind, speaking it back doesn't feel like translation anymore. It feels like memory. It feels like something that already belongs to you. That's the moment fluency starts to feel real instead of forced. And here's something beautiful I want you to hold on to. You don't need to understand every single word to benefit from listening. In fact, some of the most powerful listening practice happens when you simply let the sounds wash over you, focusing on rhythm and tone rather than translation. Your brain is far more capable than you give it credit for. It is quietly, constantly pattern matching in the background, even when you're not consciously trying. So before we move into the shadowing technique itself, the technique that will actually get your mouth moving, I want you to make a promise to yourself. Promise that from today onward, you will listen with intention. Not passive, background listening while scrolling on your phone, but focused, attentive listening, where you're absorbing the sound of English the way a baby absorbs their first language, with curiosity, patience, and zero pressure to be perfect. Because here's the truth. The learners who progress the fastest are not the ones with the biggest vocabulary. They are the ones who trained their ears first and let their mouths follow naturally afterward. You are about to become one of those learners. And in the next section, we're going to take that trained ear and turn it into real, active speaking practice together. Now that your ears are warming up, it's time to introduce the technique that ties everything together. The technique that turns passive listening into active, real speaking ability. It's called shadowing, and once you understand it, you'll never look at English practice the same way again. So, what exactly is shadowing? In the simplest words, shadowing means listening to a native speaker and repeating what they say almost at the same time, not after they finish the sentence, but right alongside them, like a shadow following a person's every move. You're not translating. You're not thinking about grammar rules. You're not pausing to search for the correct word. You are simply copying the sounds, the rhythm, the speed, the emotion in real time as closely as you possibly can. I know what you might be thinking right now. That sounds hard. What if I fall behind? What if I mispronounce something? And here's the beautiful truth about shadowing. It's supposed to feel a little messy at first. You are not expected to be perfect. You are training a skill, the same way an athlete trains muscles they've never used before. The first time you try it, your tongue might trip. Your brain might freeze for half a second. That's not failure. That's your speaking muscles waking up for the very first time. Let's talk about why this technique is so powerful, because it's doing something most study methods completely ignore. When you shadow, you are training your mouth and your ears at the exact same moment. Most learners separate these two skills. They listen during one exercise, and they practice speaking during a completely different one, days or even weeks apart. But real conversation doesn't work that way. In real conversation, you are listening and speaking almost simultaneously, processing what's being said while preparing your own response. Shadowing recreates that exact condition. It builds the neural pathway between hearing English and producing English until that pathway becomes fast, automatic, and natural. Think of it like this. Imagine trying to learn how to dance by only watching videos of dancers, without ever moving your own feet. You might understand the steps intellectually, but your body wouldn't know how to actually perform them. Shadowing is the moment you finally get up and move your feet along with the dancer on the screen. At first, your movements will be a little behind, a little clumsy, but with repetition, your body starts to remember the pattern. Soon, you're not thinking about the steps anymore. You're just dancing. That is exactly what happens to your mouth when you shadow English consistently. The sentence patterns, the natural stress, the connected sounds, they stop being something you calculate, and they start being something you simply do. Here's how you can start today, in the simplest possible way. Choose a short audio or video clip. Even 15 to 30 seconds is enough in the beginning. Listen to it once, all the way through, without speaking, just to catch the general rhythm. Then play it again, and this time, speak along with it as closely as you can, matching not just the words, but the speed, the pauses, and the emotional tone. Don't stop to fix mistakes. Keep going, just like the speaker keeps going. Repeat this same short clip 3, 4, even 5 times. Something remarkable happens by the third or fourth repetition. Sentences that felt impossible to keep up with in the beginning suddenly start to feel familiar, almost easy. I want you to notice something important here. Shadowing is not about understanding every single word perfectly. It's about training your mouth to move at native speed and training your ears to catch native rhythm without the fear and hesitation that usually holds learners back. This is how confidence gets built. Not through perfect grammar, but through repeated physical practice of actually speaking English out loud again and again until it stops feeling foreign and starts feeling like yours. And here's something truly encouraging. You don't need a classroom, a partner, or expensive lessons to do this. All you need is a short audio clip and a few focused minutes a day. That's it. This simple, humble practice is exactly what professional interpreters and confident bilingual speakers have quietly relied on for years. In the next section, we're going to go even deeper. Learning how to copy native rhythm without ever sounding robotic, so that your English doesn't just become correct, it becomes alive. Now let's talk about something that separates a learner who knows English from a speaker who truly owns English. And that difference is rhythm. You can have perfect grammar. You can know thousands of words, but if your rhythm is off, your English will still sound stiff, mechanical, almost like a robot reading a script. And on the flip side, I've met learners with a smaller vocabulary who sound incredibly fluent, simply because they've mastered the music of the language. Today, we fix that for you. Here's something most English learners never realize. English is not a flat, evenly spaced language. It's not like typing where every letter takes the same amount of space. English is what linguists call a stress-timed language. That means certain words in a sentence get emphasized, stretched, and given more time, while other words get compressed, softened, or almost swallowed completely. Listen closely to any native speaker, and you'll notice that words like the, a, to, and of often blur together, spoken quickly and quietly, while the important words, the nouns, the main verbs, the emotional words, get stretched out and stressed. This rise and fall, this stretching and shrinking, is exactly what creates that natural, musical flow you hear in fluent speakers. So why do so many learners sound robotic, even when their grammar is correct? Because they were taught to give every single word equal weight and equal time. A habit that comes from reading English silently on a page rather than truly listening to it spoken aloud. When you speak that way, giving every word the same flat emphasis, it doesn't sound natural to a native ear, even if every sentence is grammatically perfect. It's the difference between reading a poem in a monotone voice and reading it with genuine feeling. The words might be identical, but the impact is completely different. So how do you actually fix this? The answer goes back to shadowing, but now with a very specific new focus. Instead of just repeating words, you start paying close attention to the music underneath them. As you shadow a sentence, ask yourself, which words does the speaker stretch out? Where does their voice rise, like they're building excitement or asking a question? Where does it fall, like they're settling into a calm statement? Which small words almost disappear completely? Try exaggerating this rhythm on purpose at first, even if it feels a little dramatic or unusual to you. Stretch the stressed words a little longer than feels comfortable. Let the small words fade quickly. This exaggeration in practice is what eventually settles into something that feels completely natural. Let's take a simple example. Say the sentence, "I really want to go to the beach this weekend." Read it out loud right now, giving every word equal time and equal stress. Notice how flat and mechanical that sounds. Now imagine a native speaker saying the same sentence. The word really gets stretched with real feeling. Want to quietly blends into something closer to wanna, to the almost disappears into a quick connecting sound. And beach and weekend get the strongest emphasis because those are the important, meaningful words carrying the excitement of the sentence. That's rhythm. That's the difference between a sentence that sounds memorized and a sentence that sounds alive. I also want you to pay attention to something called linking. The way native speakers connect the end of one word to the beginning of the next, especially when a word ends in a consonant, and the next one starts with a vowel. Turn it off doesn't sound like three separate, clean words. It flows together, almost like turn it off spoken as one smooth unit. This linking is a huge part of why native speech sounds so fast and fluid to learners, and it's also one of the easiest things to train through repeated shadowing practice. Here's the encouraging part. You don't need to study complicated linguistic rules about stress patterns to get this right. Your ears, trained through consistent shadowing, will start recognizing these patterns naturally, almost intuitively, the same way they did when you were a small child absorbing your first language. Trust that process. Every time you shadow a native speaker and consciously copy their ups and downs, their stretches and their quick connections, you are literally rewiring the way your mouth and brain produce English. This is where your English stops sounding like something you learned from a textbook and starts sounding like something that genuinely belongs to you, expressive, human, and alive. And once your rhythm starts feeling natural, we're ready for the next step, turning this practice into a daily habit that builds real, lasting speaking speed. Here's something I want you to really sit with for a moment. Speaking speed is not a talent. It's not something certain people are born with while others simply weren't lucky enough to get it. Speaking speed is a physical skill, built through repetition, exactly the same way a runner builds stamina or a pianist builds finger speed. Nobody sits down at a piano for the first time and plays fast, complicated pieces effortlessly. It happens through small, consistent, daily practice, and English fluency works in exactly the same way. This is where so many learners go wrong, and I want you to avoid this trap completely. They practice English for 3 intense hours on a Sunday, feel proud of themselves, and then don't touch it again until the following weekend. It feels productive in the moment, but it's actually one of the least effective ways to build real speaking speed. Your mouth muscles, your ears' ability to catch fast speech, your brain's ability to retrieve words quickly, none of these improve through occasional long bursts. They improve through short, frequent, consistent repetition. Just like you can't build physical strength with one massive workout a month, you can't build speaking fluency with one massive study session a week. So here's what I want you to commit to instead. 10 to 15 minutes a day. That's it. Not 2 hours, not even 1 hour. Just 10 to 15 focused minutes every single day using the shadowing technique we've already talked about. I know that might sound almost too simple to actually work, but this is exactly the quiet secret behind real fluency. Small, consistent effort, repeated daily compounds into something powerful over time, in a way that occasional heavy effort never can. Let me walk you through what this daily habit can actually look like, so it feels achievable rather than overwhelming. Choose one short clip. Anywhere from 15 seconds to 1 minute is perfect, especially in the beginning. Listen to it once quietly, just absorbing the rhythm. Then shadow it, speaking along in real time, 3 to 5 times in a row. Notice how by the 3rd or 4th repetition, words that felt fast or unfamiliar at first start to feel smoother, more natural, almost automatic. That feeling, that shift from struggle to ease within just a few minutes, is exactly the sensation you want to chase every single day. It's proof that your brain and mouth are adapting in real time. Here's something wonderfully encouraging. You don't need new material every single day to see progress. In fact, repeating the same few clips over several days can be even more powerful than constantly switching to new content, because repetition is what builds true automaticity. Think of your favorite song, the one you know so well you can sing along without even thinking about the words. That's not because you heard it once. That's because you heard it dozens of times until it became part of you. Your daily shadowing practice works exactly the same way. Repetition is not boring. Repetition is where transformation quietly happens. I also want to gently address something that might be holding you back: the fear of not having enough time. I understand that life is busy. Between work, family, responsibilities, and everything else pulling at your attention, Finding time can feel impossible some days. But here's the truth. 10 minutes exists in your day. It exists during a commute, during a coffee break, while you're cooking, while you're getting ready in the morning. The learners who make real progress aren't the ones with more free time than you. They're the ones who protect these small pockets of time consistently, day after day, without waiting for the perfect moment that never actually comes. There's also something deeply psychological happening here that I want you to understand. When you practice daily, even briefly, you stop seeing English as a mountain you have to climb occasionally with great effort. Instead, it becomes part of your identity. Something you simply do, like brushing your teeth or checking your phone in the morning. This shift from studying English to being someone who practices English daily is one of the most powerful mental transformations you can make on this journey. It removes the pressure, the guilt, the overwhelm, and replaces it with simple, steady, sustainable action. So here's your challenge. Starting today, pick your 10 to 15 minutes. Maybe it's right after you wake up. Maybe it's your lunch break. Maybe it's the last thing you do before bed. It doesn't matter when. It only matters that it happens every single day without exception. Because speaking speed isn't built in a single dramatic moment of breakthrough. It's built quietly, patiently, minute by minute, day by day, and you are about to start building it, starting today. And once this daily habit becomes part of your life, something beautiful happens. Today's practice quietly transforms into tomorrow's natural, effortless confidence. And that's exactly where we're headed next. I want to tell you something that no textbook will ever tell you. Confidence doesn't come before fluency. Confidence comes after action. So many learners wait to feel confident before they try to speak. And they wait, and wait, and wait, sometimes for years, hoping that one day they'll magically feel ready. But that day never comes on its own. Confidence isn't a gift that arrives out of nowhere. It's something you build, brick by brick, through the very practice we've walked through together today. And that means the confidence you're hoping for tomorrow is being built right now, in this moment, through the small, humble effort you're putting in today. Let's connect everything we've covered, because each piece was never separate. They were always building toward this final truth. You started by training your ears, learning to listen deeply before ever trying to speak, just like a child absorbing their first language. Then you discovered shadowing, the technique that trains your mouth and ears together, so that listening and speaking stop being two separate skills and start becoming one natural, connected process. After that, you learned to hear and copy the rhythm of English, the stretch and stress, the fall and flow, so your speech stops sounding robotic and starts sounding alive. And then you committed to something powerful, 10 to 15 minutes a day, not occasionally, not when you have time, but consistently, like brushing your teeth. Every single one of these steps was quietly, patiently building something inside you, and that something is confidence. Here's what I want you to understand about how confidence actually grows. It's not a single dramatic moment where you suddenly transform from a nervous learner into a fluent speaker. It's far quieter than that. It's the 5th time you shadow a sentence and notice it finally rolled off your tongue smoothly, without effort. It's the day you catch yourself using a phrase in real conversation that you'd practiced just days before, without even consciously thinking about it. It's the moment someone responds to you in English, and instead of freezing, you respond back instantly, naturally, because your mouth already knew what to do. These small moments, one after another, are what confidence is actually made of. Not perfection, not fearlessness, just proof collected day after day that you are capable. I also want to be honest with you about something important. There will be days when progress feels invisible. You'll practice, and it won't feel like anything dramatic happened. That's completely normal, and I need you to trust the process anyway. Growth in language learning is rarely visible day to day. It's visible when you look back. The learner you are 1 month from now, 3 months from now, 6 months from now, will look back at today and recognize exactly how far you've come, even if today felt ordinary. Every single shadowing session, even the ones that felt small or unremarkable, was quietly depositing something into your future fluency. Trust the deposits, even when you can't see the balance growing. I want you to release any pressure to be perfect. Native speakers make mistakes. They mumble, they pause, they restart sentences. Fluency was never about perfection. It was always about connection, about expressing yourself clearly enough that another person understands you and feels your meaning. The moment you let go of the need to sound flawless and instead focus on sounding real, everything becomes lighter. Your English stops being a performance you're nervously giving and starts becoming simply a part of who you are. So, here is what I want you to carry with you as you close this lesson today. You are not the same learner you were before you started watching this video. You now understand why listening first matters. You know how to shadow. You understand the rhythm that makes English feel alive instead of robotic. And you have a simple, sustainable daily habit that fits into even the busiest life. That is not a small thing. That is the actual foundation that fluent speakers are built on. Tomorrow, when you sit down for your 10 to 15 minutes, I want you to remember this. You are not just practicing English. You are becoming someone new, someone who speaks with ease, someone who isn't afraid of their own voice, someone who trusts that consistent, quiet effort creates real, lasting change. That person isn't far away in some distant future. She or he is being built right now, one small practice session at a time, and I promise you, you are so much closer to that version of yourself than you realize. Keep going, keep listening, keep shadowing. Your voice is worth hearing, and the world is ready to hear it in English, spoken confidently, spoken freely, spoken as truly, unmistakably yours.